welcome back to the Visionary Chronicles. Appreciate you being with me today. I'm Bryan Smeltzer. I spent 30 years in executive leadership at brands like Oakley, adidas, TaylorMade, K-Swiss. Also built and sold my own brand to a VC firm. And now I empower CMOs and brand leaders through Liquid Mind on building brands that transform the future. And today on the Visionary Chronicles, we're talking about that future of leadership. I say timely because a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is the evolution and what's happening before our eyes today of AI and how that's affecting leadership today. So we're going to talk about some of those emerging trends and really this evolution of the role of the visionary leader. And I'm going to talk about 5 concepts, and a lot of this will be tagged around AI as well. So hopefully you find it very timely. And so the next decade, when I looked at this, the next decade really will not be won by the leader who knows the most. It's really going to be won by the leader who adapts the fastest, really builds the deepest culture, and holds the clearest vision where everyone else is reacting to noise. And you'll see a lot of that with AI. You've got brands, the hyperscalers that are really implementing, adapting, and now turning that into tangible ROI from the investments that they're making. And that will continue to happen. So today we're breaking down the 5 forces of reshaping leadership right now. And what every visionary leader or any leader in whatever field you happen to be in, this applies to you and what you need to know about each one of these. And a quote that I usually like to do in the beginning of each one of my podcasts, and I thought this one was very appropriate for today: the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. That's from Alvin Toffler. He's a futurist, in case some of you may not have known that. And I think it's a really appropriate quote for what we're going to be talking about today. And kind of the context behind what I'm going to talk about today, we're living really through the most compressed period of leadership change in modern business history. They say even greater than the implementation of the internet at the time. AI is reshaping, as we know very well, every function. Generational shifts are rewriting what we call this social contract between leaders and the people they lead. Geopolitical volatility is making global strategy feel really like just this educated guess. And I know a lot of you are facing this today, and why I'm talking about it. And the pace of change isn't slowing, which is another issue. It's accelerating. So you need to keep pace. Not only keep pace, but sprint forward and look into the future as to how you can adapt as a leader and adapt with those tools that have been given to you like AI. And I really say it's a tool. People are overreacting. Not that there won't be job loss, but there's going to be a significant improvement in efficiency with every employee that's at a job. So in this environment, the leaders who will define the next decade are not the ones who are reacting. Remember that. Reaction versus responding. They're the ones who saw this coming and built for it. Think of these brands that are now hyperscalers that are investing in AI so we can become more efficient because of their investments in AI. And really, that's what my book, The Visionary Leader, is designed to do. Give you the frameworks to lead from the future instead of managing the present. And I profile many of these current visionary leaders. So today what we'll do is we'll break down what I call these 5 forces every visionary leader needs to understand. And again, the context, any leader needs to adapt to these. Any leader can utilize these to become more efficient, more effective. You need to embrace and act on these right now. This is an urgency It's anything you can wait on or just sit around the conference table and put together a plan of how you're going to implement it. It's when you're going to implement it. It's not if, it's when. So we're going to break down these 5 areas that you need to focus on. So key concept number 1 is what I call the AI augmented leader, leading alongside intelligent systems and utilizing them to your effectiveness and your growth as a leader. So the conversation around AI and leadership is stuck in this wrong frame, I'll say. So I really want you to understand what I'm talking about today. And those that may be confused by AI or maybe not understand how to implement AI, this will really be effective for you to listen to this on this podcast. So most executives that we talk to today are asking, will AI replace me? The visionary leader asks a different question. How do I lead better with AI than I ever could without it? That's a better question to be asking in our environment today. AI, understand this, AI is not a threat to visionary leadership. It's a multiplier of it. If you know how to use it, that's the context. So here's the shift. CEO ownership today of AI strategy has doubled in the past year. CEO ownership of AI strategy. So that's a different context all in itself. Nearly 3/4 of CEOs now identify as their organization's primary AI decision maker. Think about the context of that. Never in our history have we had this move up the chain of command so quickly and be so prevalent with CEOs as AI. Half of these CEOs believe their role is on the line if AI fails to deliver the promised ROI. So you're careful about how you put it in context. Yes, you're making investments, but you also are held accountable to ROI. The pressure's real. But here's the good news. The opportunity is also real. Visionary leaders are not building AI strategies, they're building AI augmented organizations to make their people more efficient, more effective, where human judgment directs the machine and the machine amplifies this human capability. So here's the visionary leader principle that comes out of this. The leaders who will win are not the most technically fluent. They're the ones who can ask the right questions of an AI system, the prompts, and recognize when its output needs human judgment to redirect it. Strategic interrogation, ethical reasoning, and creative, what they call in these prompts, this synthesis of prompts, are now the most defensible executive skills in the AI era. Everybody thinks, and we talk to in our Liquid Mind whiteboard sessions, and a lot of the discussions that we have now are around AI with our CEOs. So when we look at this, a good real world example is at TaylorMade, our competitive advantage was never just product. It was the speed of our decision cycles and how quickly we made decisions on product concepts that would be commercialized and brought to market quicker. AI does not replace that kind of judgment. It compresses the time between signal and your decision. The leader who masters that compression wins. So, and I'm going to give you a couple questions after each one of these concepts. And if you have the ability, I'm going to mark these also in the notes for the podcast as well. But I want you to be prepared. After I talk about each one of these concepts, I'm going to give you a couple questions on what I call practical application around these concepts. So this is the first one. Identify the top 3 decisions in your organization that AI could inform but not make. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is build one human AI workflow this quarter and measure the decision speed improvement. Number 3 is ask your team, where are we using AI as a shortcut instead of a multiplier? Key concept 2 is the adaptive organization, building for change, not against it. The most dangerous assumption in the business world today is that your current organizational structure will still be the right one in 3 years. The leaders that we talk to and the CEOs that we talk to are winning in 2026, are not managing change. They've built organizations that are designed to change. This liquidity in their adaptation. And they did it before any pressure hit them to make this change. So here's the shift. The research from the World Economic Forum confirms that analytical thinking, resilience, flexibility, and agility are now the most valued skills across every industry. That move toward flatter organizational structures built across cross-functional teams with real decision-making authority. So what you're looking at is this analytical thinking, resilience, and flexibility and agility are valued skills, and it allows organizations to be flatter, empowering. And I love the word empowering. That's what I put into our positioning and talking about with our brands and with who we are as a advisory firm, is empowering people. And that's really what this is, the shift towards flatter structures, giving people more decision-making authority. Command and control is not just ineffective in this environment, it's a liability. It used to be a strength, and now it's a weakness. So here's your visionary leader principle out of this, is adaptive organizations are not built from the top down, they're built from the culture up. Clear priorities, simple decision rules, strong values. These are not soft leadership tools. They are the load-bearing infrastructure that allows your organization to move fast without fragmenting. When the world gets noisier, and it does, fundamentals get louder. So here's an example at Oakley. The brand's ability to move from eyewear to apparel to technology accessories was not by accident. It was a result of a culture Jim Gennard had built that treated everything as a design challenge, not a strategic risk. What can we do better as a brand that nobody else has done in order for us to continue to lead in our category? The DNA was clear, the boundaries are not. And here's a practical application out of this concept. So 3 questions for you. Number 1 is map your current decision-making structure. Where does speed go to die? Number 2 is identify one cross-functional team that could own a decision that currently escalates to somebody else. Number 3 is audit your organizational values. Are they specific enough to be decision filters? Now, concept number 3 is the human-centered leader. Culture as a competitive moat. And I love that. If you are in the stock market, you know there's the huge moat of brands. Nobody looks at culture as a competitive moat. And you really need to have this as a competitive weapon in the world today because of how competitive it is out there for employees, market share, product, trust, community building, and also long-term customer value. The funnel of value that you're building with your community. It's imperative that you have a great culture, but you just can't say you have a culture, you need to build it. So here's the leadership paradox over the next decade. As AI handles more of the technical work, the human skills become more valuable, not less. Empathy, trust, psychological safety, the ability to hold people's ambitions and fears simultaneously and lead them through both. These are not soft skills. In 2026, they are strategic differentiators for your company. Never lose sight of that, even through the AI revolution. And here's the shift in this concept. 71% of leaders report being under increased stress. 40% are considering leaving their roles. DDI research shows that 77% of CHROs lack confidence in their leadership bench strength. This is not a talent shortage. It's a leadership culture problem. Organizations with strong cultural consistency outperform their peers, not occasionally, but over 10-year periods and generations. Culture is now the most durable form of competitive advantage available to any organization. And I talked about this when there was an employee shortage years ago. If you've got a culture which is authentic and one that's been built over generations and has been consistent in its passion around its positioning and passionate around embracing the values of your brand and your culture, like a Nike, like an Adidas, like a TaylorMade, like a Callaway, whatever it happens to be, whatever your culture is, make sure that you understand in this new environment that we're in, these soft skills are going to become more and more valuable. So here's the leadership principle on this concept. The visionary leaders do not build cultures by writing values on a wall. That's bullshit. And I talk about that in our whiteboard meetings with Liquid Mind. You can't just say you've got a great culture and not live it. They build cultures by making 1,000 small decisions in a way that's consistent with those values, especially under pressure. The culture is not what you say, it's what you tolerate, reward, and model. Remember that. The culture you build is not what you say, it is what you tolerate, reward, and model. And here's a great example as well. At Adidas and working with Adidas, the brand's cultural conviction around sport as a force for change was not a marketing position. It was an operating philosophy. Every product decision, every partnership, every hire either reinforced it or eroded it. So in this concept 3, here's questions you need to ask yourself in this concept. Name the 3 behaviors your culture actually rewards, not the ones you aspire to reward. Identify one place where your stated values and your observed behavior are misaligned with one another. Build one ritual this quarter that reinforces the culture you are building. Now, key concept number 4 is the purpose-driven brand. Vision as the new business strategy. And purpose has become this contested term in business. Like, what does it mean? Why do we need purpose? It's been over-marketed, under-delivered, and in some circles, politically really polarizing to people. But let's strip away the noise and the underlying principle. It remains as true as it has always been. Leaders who know exactly why they're building what they're building and can articulate that with precision and passion are the ones that are building a culture built with a purpose. Attract better people, build stronger brands, and they create more durable organizations. So here's the shift in this concept. Research consistently shows that organizations with clear, meaningful purpose attract and retain talent at a significantly higher rate. Isn't that worth it? But there's a critical distinction. Purpose that is lived versus purpose that is performed. That is authentication. It's saying and not doing, it's doing and saying. Consumers, employees, investors have developed a sophisticated ability to detect the difference. The brands that are winning are the ones where purpose is a filter for every decision, not a marketing layer pried after the fact. And here's the visionary leader principle you can take away from this. Purpose in a visionary organization is not a statement. It's a decision-making system. It answers 3 questions. Number 1, why do we exist? Number 2, what would be lost if we just disappeared? And what decisions are we making that our competitors are not? And here's a real world example. Nike's brand purpose. Everybody knows Nike, and I use them as an example quite frequently for a reason. Phil Knight built a juggernaut, a generational success with a brand culture. And Nike's brand purpose was democratizing athletic identity. This has been a strategic filter for 50 years of product decisions, athletic partnerships, and cultural positioning. It's not a tagline for Nike. It's an operating system. So here's your practical application on concept 4. 3 questions for you. Write your purpose in one statement, not a paragraph, one sentence. Test it is number 2. What decision would you make differently if you led with this purpose? And then the third is ask your team to name one thing the company does that contradicts that purpose. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at the answers you get. We actually, with Liquid Mind, with our CEOs, will also bring in the first, second line tier leaders, vice presidents, managers, directors. And we'll actually go through this concept and we'll ask the leaders, give us a one-sentence statement, then we'll test it with them and ask them questions directly. And then we'll bring in the other leaders to hear the contradictions to the statement from the CEO. It's an interesting drill that we do, and more often than not, it's inconsistent. So I say be consistent in this and you'll succeed. Concept number 5 is the legacy leader, building for the decade, not the quarter. And I talk about this quite frequently, is that you're building a legacy. Think of the great brands that have built the legacy. You still know of them today because of what they built in the past and also the vision of what they had for the future. The most important leadership shift of the next decade is the one that is the hardest to make. Moving from quarterly management mindset to a decade-scaled vision. This is not about ignoring short-term performance. I'm not saying that. It's about ensuring that every short-term decision is made in service of a long-term architecture, an overriding architecture of what your brand is and how you're going to succeed in the future. You could also layer it with what I talk about very frequently, the innovation pipeline. If you're a product company, what are you doing and what are you surfing for the next 8 to 10 years that you can put in the pipeline? And the shift is from JP Morgan's 2026 Business Leaders Outlook, found that 73% of mid-sized business owners expect to increase revenue this year. Isn't that great? And yet business confidence in the global economy remains cautious. That's crazy. It's a contradiction. It's an oxymoron. The leaders navigating this tension best are the ones who have a 1,000-day plan behind their quarterly targets. So here's the leadership, or the visionary leadership principle behind this concept. Legacy. Leaders operate on two time horizons simultaneously. The first is execution. What needs to happen in the next 90 days to keep the organization healthy, funded, and moving. The second is architecture, which not only people talk about, they don't use that word architecture in the concept of a long-term vision for your company and strategy. What needs to be true in 1,000 days for the organization to have built something that outlasts its founders and the leaders who built it. The ability to hold both without sacrificing one for the other is the defining characteristic of the visionary leader in the decade ahead. And here's a real-world example, an older one, but I love it because it's somebody I admire, somebody I had in the book, and somebody I profiled in the book is Henry Ford. Henry Ford's vertical integration strategy was not a quarterly decision. Nobody was doing it at the time, and it was a high-risk proposition. He didn't know if it was going to work. It was a decade-scale architectural move for him. He was owning the entire supply chains before the market demanded it. Because Ford could see the world he was building. That is legacy leadership. Very few people have had it. I get it. You've got Elon Musk today. You had Steve Jobs, Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller. There's very few. But these are the ones that can project and set a vision to the future. So here's a practical application for you on Concept 5. I want you to write a one-paragraph vision for what your organization looks like in 1,000 days. Map back from that vision is the second question. What must be true in 90 days to stay on that trajectory? Number 3 is identify one quarterly decision you are making that contradicts your decade-scale vision. So these are all questions in the context of how do you position yourself in this AI age as a visionary leader? So I've given you 5 concepts. Along with those, practical applications and examples of brands and companies and also where the market is today and how leaders are thinking about positioning themselves for the future. And last are questions you need to ask yourself to get to this trajectory of envisioning the future and implementing it. Because if you don't, I always say you stand still on the railroad track, you're going to get run over. So make sure that you're answering these questions and also looking at these 5 concepts for leadership. And so let me give you some final thoughts. And I'm going to give you what I call a closing challenge. The future of leadership is not a prediction, it's a choice. The 5 forces that I covered today, AI augmentation, adaptive organizations, human-centered culture in an AI age, purpose-driven vision, and legacy thinking, aren't really abstract trends. They're decisions that are being made right now in boardrooms and team meetings and one-on-ones by leaders exactly like you. The leaders who will define the next decade are not waiting for the future to arrive, they're building it. They've already moved on from the boardroom. So here's your challenge this week. The sooner you do it, the better. Pick one of the 5 concepts from today, just one. Ask yourself, what is the one decision I have been deferring that this concept demands? Then make it. Transform, I always say transform, reinvent, revolutionize. It's not a tagline. This is your mandate for change in an AI age. So if this episode resonated with you, I encourage you to pick up a copy of The Visionary Leader, The Success Principles of the World's Greatest Visionaries. There are a lot of concepts I have in here. Almost all of these are on how to become a visionary leader in this AI age we're in today, in profiling visionaries and how they accomplish their goals, and how you can apply that to your day-to-day as a leader. It's available now at Amazon, wherever books are sold. The book draws directly from the frameworks we discuss on this show. It's your blueprint for building the kind of leadership that creates generational impact in our world. And there's a link in the show notes if you would like. We have it both through Amazon and all the distributors who sell books. Plus, we sell it online through my website directly at bryansmeltzer.com as well. And if you're a CMO, founder, or brand leader, you'd like to apply these frameworks directly to your business, I work with a select number of clients on a private advisory basis through Liquid Mind. And if that's you, visit liquidmindsite.com advisory or click the link in the show notes as well. And one quick ask before I let you go today. And if this episode really just gave you, let's just say, one idea you could use this week, would you just take 30 seconds to leave a review on an Apple Podcast? I'd really appreciate it. It tells that, I guess, this simple algorithm, this show is worth finding. And that's really what I want, is that my whole intent with the Visionary Chronicles is, I said, hey, if you can't come to me with questions to what I brought up in the podcast, and follow up with me directly without having to go to somebody else or a guest that I have on, all the better. And I love the feedback that I get from Apple Podcasts, or when people do leave a review or contact me directly. That's what I'm here for, is to make sure that we build this reach. So we need more people to discover the content. Search the Visionary Chronicles, scroll to ratings and reviews, and leave an honest review. I read every one of them, and I would be greatly appreciative. And I thank you for doing that. And for weekly brand strategy and leadership insights I don't share anywhere else, you can subscribe also, and it's free, to the Visionary Advisory Letter at Bryan Smeltzer, BryanSmeltzer.com. The link is in the show notes as well. And again, thank you for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate it. The Visionary Chronicles, where the future is created by those bold enough to shape it. Until next time, keep innovating, keep leading, and keep shaping the future. Stay true, stay authentic, be different, be great. Enjoy the journey along the way. I'm Bryan Smeltzer. See you in the next Visionary Chronicles.